Dear Dad, it's been 15 years since you left us. A lot has changed, but I think I'd be making you proud. A degree from SC State and USC Law. You would love my wife, Jill, and I represent our community in the State House. But now I'm doing something bigger, running for Senate to continue fighting for our community, creating opportunities and protecting the rights of those who need a voice. Because, Dad, that's the world you taught me to believe in.
It's time for a little comedy, a little content, and a lot of conversation. It's the Geno Jones Show, exclusively right here on YouTube. Now here's your host, Geno Jones.
Hey, what's happening, everybody? It's the weekend, baby. Weekend, baby. The Geno Jones Showtime. How we doing? So I'm coming to you live Monday through Friday. Now, my normal start days and start times are Monday through Friday. Now, this week, Monday was Memorial Day, so it's no live show. But normally, unless it's a holiday or unless I give you a programming note ahead of time, which I will, Monday through Friday, live right here on the Geno Jones Show YouTube channel. 6:30 p.m. It's 5:30 p.m. in Chicago, 3:30 p.m. out in Los Angeles. Tell everybody to subscribe to the, shout out to all of my new and from day one subscribers. Spread the word for me. Subscribe and share, screen grab or rip some of the video from the monologue or the show and let's make it go viral. Subscribe, share, screen grab, like, and binge watch all my back episodes. Make it a Geno Jones Show binge watch weekend. Pop you some popcorn and get you some cashews or whatever you like to do and just sit around your favorite beverage and just binge watch the show all weekend long. Check out all the great guests I've had on, from Mr. Big, Ronald Isley, to Lettucey and Kenny Lattimore and Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis and Howard Hewitt and Roy Chip Anthony and October London. Man, I could go on and on. Lenny Williams, Larry Dotson, from the former lead singer of the Barcades. So many. I can't even name them all. The Geno Jones Show, brought to you by CM Transportation. CM like Mary Transportation. If your business needs a transportation company that is dependable, reliable, and on time, not CP time, but on time, CM Transportation. Shout out to Carissa Carter. She is the CEO of CM Transportation, a nationwide company based here in Charleston, South Carolina, one of the top transportation companies in America. African-American woman-owned, so you know we are all about supporting black-owned businesses. And thank you to the black-owned businesses that are supporting black media right here. So just go to, if you need a transportation company for your business, like I said, that is dependable, reliable, and on time, just www.cm like Mary, cmtransportationllc.net, cmtransportationllc.net, or you can call them headquarters and headquartered here in the Charleston, South Carolina metro area, 843 area code 606-2702, 843 area code 606-2702. Well, let me start the show off by quoting a famous philosopher, one Damaris Jones, who recently said, you know, karma, she's a slow bitch, but she will eventually show up. Well. It seems like Mrs. Jones was a prophet, because yes, karma has been a slow bitch with Orange Hitler. But oh, she did eventually show up, and she showed up yesterday afternoon, a little bit after 5 o'clock. Guilty on all 34 counts, falsifying documents to interfere with New York elections. As a matter of fact, trying to cover up his affair with Stormy Daniels, the porn star who turned out to be smarter than Orange Hitler. She had more sense. He picked the wrong one. The Susan McDougal, she's still in love with him, but he picked the wrong one, and she put all of his little business out there in the public. And now She's taken down Orange Hitler. Some people call him 45. I call him 88. 88 indictments down in Fulton County, Georgia, or I guess now we could call him 34. Guilty on all 34 counts. So, now you saw my show yesterday. Once again, I want to heads up because we're living in some crazy times. This MAGA cult, they're not operating with a full deck. In all seriousness, especially to the culture, to my African-American brothers and sisters, to my Jewish brothers and sisters, you need to keep your head on a swivel too. My Latino brothers and sisters, our Asian American brothers and sisters, our Native American brothers and sisters, the LGBTQ community, keep your head on a swivel. All right, black churches. Of course, we got Juneteenth Day and Juneteenth week in 3 weeks, and we've got all kind of graduations, celebrations, family reunions, class picnics, and all of that. Just be careful. Make sure you got real good security. All right, if you having any there's a lot of Juneteenth events all across America. So I'm just saying, just heads up. Be aware of your surroundings. Keep your eyes open. So if you saw the show yesterday, that was one of the main themes I had. As a matter of fact, the monologue was fire. So if you missed it, go back and watch it. Now, what I want to do now is bring on our legal expert. Keila Carson is normally on with us. She had a family emergency, so I don't know what that is, but we're lifting Key up in prayer because that's my sister. But here's my brother, ladies and gentlemen. You know him. He is the legal expert for the Geno Jones Show, Mr. Sean Mitchell. Family.
Hey, how you doing, Geno? It's a good day today, right?
Hey, man. And listen, let me piggyback off of you. Now, listen. I know some of us are happier than others, and some folks in their feelings.
Right.
But I don't want y'all to get too crazy. Maybe celebrate in your house, but I'm gonna tell you how you should celebrate. By not only voting, but taking about 25 or 50 people with you and talking to your sons or daughters or grandchildren or your nieces and nephews or some young brothers and sisters that you mentor and get them to understand this is not a personality contest. It's not a beauty contest. And first of all, it is not the lesser of two evils because President Biden, for whatever flaws he may have, he is not an evil man. But you are dealing with evil on the other side. And I've said it before, and before I bring Sean on, I'm going to continue to say this as Nelly would say, every day. This presidential election, you are choosing between your freedom and the freedom of your family and children and unborn children and your oppression. Because this cult wants to oppress you. And if you don't believe me, like I tell you almost every day on this show, just Google and download Project 2025. They're not even trying to hide it. It's in black and white. You can download it as a PDF on your computer, at home or in your office or on your tablet. 1,000 pages. These people are not playing with you. Peaceful protests, forget about that. He's going to send the military. He'll send the National Guard, like he had the National Guard come out in Washington, D.C. back in 2020 when they had the peaceful protests for George Floyd. And he asked his then Defense Secretary, Mark Esper, can't we just shoot them? Because he did say right before that, when the looting starts, the shooting starts. So this person is not playing with you. Okay? I get it. There's some things that you may not be happy with President Biden, but he's done a lot. But this show is not about this, but I just want to, Sean, the OGs used to tell us back in the day, it's like, yo, young boy, son, let me put you up on game. So I'm putting my young brothers and sisters up on game. So Sean, give us some legal game, I guess.
First, I want to start off with one of my favorite bumper stickers that has come out. This was out about,
I love it.
A year ago, but today is about right. Now, what I want people to notice is this is more accurate. Probably 20 years is more accurate, and I'll explain it in a little bit. But my friends over at moveon.org sent me one of the first prints of this.
I love it.
And so I thought I would show that. And and share that with
That
you.
was a nice little surprise. I didn't see that one coming.
Right, right. The other thing is, while I think it's a very happy day in the United States, it's also a sad day. So let me explain.
And
The
Sean,
happy,
if you don't mind, I'll lead you into that because I was thinking about it. I was about to ask, and you went into your soliloquy. So, but if you don't mind, indulge me. I want to get, as a lawyer, did you expect this verdict on all 34 counts?
Yes, because the law is pretty clear cut, and I don't think what people don't understand is there was a paper trail to all of this. This is a business records issue, falsifying business records. Now, where does all of this come from? Well, back in Trump's business scheming heydays, prior to the economic collapse in the around 2000, right after George Bush gets in charge.
2007, like when the housing market collapsed?
No, not that. This is around 2001, before September 11th.
Right after 9/11. I got you.
Yeah, it's kind of around the dot-com bust.
Yes.
And you had companies like AIG, MCI, all creating documents and falsifying documents to post record, claiming that they were the like companies would value them more in record earnings.
Really? I forgot about that.
So what New York, Illinois, and California, after this, kind of set their own laws about this.
Okay.
But the federal government has laws about this. Okay. And it's about, if you're the CEO of a company, you are responsible for the accuracy of the business documents. So if you remember, Weiselberg, his main chief financial officer,
who's sitting in jail right now.
Sitting in jail now for business, basically financial fraud. So to bring this to Trump's situation, during the election, we know the story. Trump, right before everybody's already voting at this point, it's late October, and it starts to come out, not only the Hollywood extra, I can't think of the name, where he gets off the bus and says, grab him by the pee. Right. That's one part. But the other part is that you had women that were coming out saying, Stormy Daniels, for instance, she didn't say anything, but she had signed an NDA years earlier about a sexual relationship that she had with Trump. Now, where Michael Cohen comes in, he's the attorney for Donald Trump, and he's working a backdoor deal. And at the same time, David Pecker, who's over the National Enquirer, all those salacious magazines you see as you check out for grocery, is collecting basically Oppo research and dirty dealings on all of Trump's possible competitors. And at the same time, he's getting information about Trump, but he's like holding on to it for whatever purposes, maybe to blackmail Trump later on, I don't know. But they basically have a gentleman's agreement that you can dump dirt on all my opponents, just don't dump it on me. And so basically Trump is manipulating money in order to pay off the porn star, or the adult film star, Stormy Daniels. Now, here's the issue with that. It wouldn't be a real issue if he had to just paid her flat out, but he was using campaign funds. So he basically says, that I'm paying this out of the campaign, and that's where we get into trouble. You cannot run a business. I don't care whether it's a corporation, a LLC, and a partnership. You cannot falsify business documents. So Trump, bring it fast forward, is charged with 34 counts of basically lying on business forms, campaign finance form violations within New York law. And so under New York law, he's charged 34 times for a very low grade. It's a felony, but it's like a class E felony. I believe in New York, they go A being the high, E being the lowest form of felony. And so He has 34 charges. Now, let's really just understand, this is a cut and dry case. There is paperwork. There is documents where you have Trump agreeing to make this transaction without getting into the details about making sure Stormy gets paid. There's corroborating evidence. You also have Michael Cohen, who went to jail for some of this, not just this. Make it clear, he had done other things, and he also cooperated with the government during the Mueller investigation. And so he curried favor, or Michael Cohen would still be in jail. That's the problem with where Weisselberg is. Weisselberg didn't cooperate. And so he obviously, when you don't cooperate with the investigation and try to...
Sean, for those who don't know, explain to people who Alan Weisselberg is.
Yeah, he was the chief financial officer of the Trump organization. And so he knows where the money's hidden, who paid what. He's signing off on everything. And so they threw the book at him because if you're the CEO or the chief financial officer, you're fiducially responsible to the investors, shareholders within the company. But also, you can't lie to the government. And people say, well, Trump says, well, I don't know, I hired all these people to do all the work. Yes, that is very well true, but it's his responsibility, even though he may not be an accountant, even though he may not know the law, he still is being advised by people that do. And it's obvious that he was navigating some of these criminal activities. For instance, a lawyer does not shield a defendant from criminal activity if you come to that lawyer asking the lawyer how to commit fraud or how to commit a crime. There's no attorney privilege when you are seeking a lawyer's advice for the commission of crime. So here's a side note to all my brothers and sisters, and I get this, no shade on my family because I tease my brother about this. You can't at the barbecue say to me, hey, I was thinking about smashing this dude over his head and taking his car. That is a confession to a crime. Even if I'm you, and you say that to me, you say, well, how can I get away with it? I can't tell you how to commit a crime and get away with it. Now, say if you did smash somebody over the head and take their car, and you're coming to me saying, hey, what legal advice would you advise me on how to deal with these charges? Then under attorney-client privilege, we can have a conversation that's privileged between you and I. So a lot of people have this idea that, oh, I can give an attorney money and I'm on a retainer and I can say whatever I want to that attorney. Well, no, you can't. There are things that are privileged and protected, and there are things that are not protected. So hint, hint, if you are actively trying to commit a crime or get away with a crime or further a crime, though your attorney does not protect you from that. And so Trump's statement is, well, my attorneys. No, the attorney works for you. Perfect example. Trump had every opportunity to testify.
Yes,
The attorney has no control. Listen to this, people. I, as a lawyer, if I'm your attorney and I'm representing you, and there's a case and you want to testify, I may advise you, hey, I don't think this is a good idea. But at the end of the day, it's the client's decision. So Trump had every opportunity from arraignment, from the trial, and he chooses not to sit on the stand, give direct testimony, and be cross-examined. Why?
As a matter of fact, Sean, let me just jump in just to amplify the point you just make. Not only did he have all the right, correct me, I'm pretty confident I'm right with what I'm about to say. The judge in open court, he will ask the defendant, if your lawyer, if you're my lawyer and you say Mr. Jones is going to plead the fifth, isn't it true that the judge will ask me, the defendant, in open court, Is it true? Would you like to
Yeah.
testify? I don't know the exact wording.
Yes, he will ask, but this situation is not pleading the fifth. Pleading the fifth is a situation where a defendant does not want to incriminate himself on this.
Right.
And they actually say, I'm not going to testify because my testimony would be against my own interest. That's a little different. If every defendant has a choice to go on the stand or not, you don't have to go on the stand. Most of the time, a lot of this stuff before you go to court is done through depositions. And depositions is sworn testimony. There's a court reporter. There's a transcript. And the thing that most attorneys love about depositions is that even if the other attorney objects, the person still has to answer the question. Okay. And then the objections, whether to admit that testimony or not, will be handled in conference with the judge. And so a lot of times you will find out things in a deposition that you can't necessarily use in court, but they will give you a deep insight into some criminal defendant's culpability, whether you're on the prosecution side or plaintiff side. And when you say plaintiff, we're talking civil prosecution. We're obviously talking the state. And then the defense side. And so sometimes that situation, look, Trump has done depositions before and has lied in those depositions. No good attorney would actually let Trump on the stand because he has no self-control and he's a liar. He is a perjury action waiting to happen. I think it was several years ago where he let it slip out, told us what he was really thinking. I'm not going to go on the chan. It's a perjury trap. Well, there's no such thing as a perjury trap. You either going to tell the truth when you go on the stand or you're going to lie. There's no trap to it. And so when Trump says he didn't get a fair trial, let me give you an example. There was a point during the prosecution's presentation of the case where Trump's lawyers didn't object and the judge objected to the line of questioning. So that tells you a whole lot. I don't know Judge Machon. I can only go by what I heard and read, but he seemed pretty fair because I practice here in Illinois, and it's not too many judges that are, unless, usually in courts of like misdemeanor court or a smaller court, sometimes the judge, when there's a new lawyer on either side, whether it's a new prosecutor or a new defense attorney, the judge will say something like, counsel, are you sure you don't want to object to this line of questioning? But it's rare that, unless it's just, and obviously I don't know what the prosecution question was, but obviously it was too much for the judge. It's rare that they jump in and say, objection and sustain their own objection. Wow. They usually don't do that. So when Trump talks about it's not fair, when you have Republicans talking about it's the Biden administration prosecuting Trump, no, it's not. It's the state of New York. Some of these things had already been brought up in previous litigation. They just didn't go into the hush money stuff. They went more into what was going on with the fraud at the Trump organization. Trump is already, the Trump organization is already being managed by a judge-appointed conservator that is running the organization. And there are various charges or various legal consequences of the fraud that was going on. And this is just a bigger picture of the fraud. The other dynamic that we need to watch before I get into the July 11th sentencing thing is that I'm glad I waited 24 hours to go on the show, because what was golden this morning was kind of watching Trump do the Trump thing.
Oh, yes.
The press conference.
So for those who don't know or didn't see, I didn't watch it because I knew he was going to be lying, but I'm glad you got to see it. So Orange Hitler, as we affectionately refer to him as on the show, did what he does and went in front of cameras, around 10:30, 11 o'clock, and
Yeah.
just start lying. But I'll let you elaborate from there, Sean.
Well, I'm gonna be full disclosure. I never watch a whole Trump speech. I kind of like see little parts of it, and then I'll go and maybe look through a transcript, or maybe I'll go to another reliable source and get some excerpts. But a couple of things stuck out. It's amazing that in the first days of trial, everything I say, you guys can Google or go look up. The jury was the most beautiful jury in the world. People don't know that there is one juror, like where he talks about, oh, this was an unfair jury, and this jury was only made up of 5% of my supporters. Well, first of all, people, that's not how juries work. First of all, juries are acquired from the jurisdiction that the court is held in. So in New York, this is a state court, which means it's in a district within the state, and the jurors are all pulled from that district. They're usually from voter registration polls. Mm-hmm. Now, what happens is before those of you that have never done jury duty, the only time I've ever done jury duty was twice. Got called for jury duty was twice in Berkeley County. I was never chosen for jury duty.
I actually sat on one way back in the day.
Well, it's funny, just a side note about that. I lived in South Carolina maybe for 5 years before I became a registered voter in South Carolina. I kept voting absentee in Illinois until I knew I was actually just going to stay, where it became my permanent domicile. So anyway, after they saw I voted a couple of times in every election, they started calling me to jury duty. And the funny part is I never got chosen for jury duty. But the most interesting part, what people don't understand, is during jury selection, each side can, without cause, has 3 opportunities to remove a juror. Now, when I say without cause, the main thing that courts look at when it comes to jury selection is you cannot discriminate. In other words, you cannot pick a juror because they're Black, because they're a woman, or because of some distinct characteristic that they can't change about them. All right, so you cannot do that at all during jury selection. But you do have opportunities to dismiss a juror. Maybe you don't like the fact that a juror works in a restaurant and that's not good. It's a waitress. And you're like, okay, I don't really want a waitress on this because of whatever. Or maybe a person says it's involving a crime. You're defending a defendant that is has a crime against a child. And they say, I'm not going to sit anybody that's a mom, and you have all these things that you can use. Trump's defense counsel, which represents Trump, had every opportunity and chose that jury. Didn't nobody pick that jury for them. The other dynamic is this idea that I'm in a courtroom of my peers and only 5% of them voted for me. Well, first of all, the jury process is not a political process. He's arguing that he should have been moved out of that venue or to another venue that was more supportive of Trump. Well, that's not how these things work. You commit a crime in a jurisdiction, it has to be with that beyond a reasonable doubt that you won't get a fair trial in that jurisdiction for them to move it. The perfect example is if I remember right, it might have been the Michael Brown situation in Ferguson.
Okay, I think
where
so.
They moved that trial from Ferguson into St. Louis.
Yeah, I remember that.
They didn't think that it would be fair to go after the person in that. And I could have mixed it up, but that's an example. But in Trump's case, this is a financial crime, low level. No matter where he goes in whatever jurisdiction, they're going to be supporters and they're going to be antis against Trump. That has nothing to do with getting a fair trial. So all of this rhetoric about not getting a fair trial also dovetails to gag order, the fact that throughout on the campaign trail until the judge stepped in and issued a gag order, which he broke, which he kept on breaking
Multiple
times. And that he actually broke today by making personal attacks on the court. Will be interesting to see how that plays out with June 11th. Trump said something today that he 34 charges, he's facing up to 187 years. And that's like, you know, that's not how this works. At most, he could be facing 4 years. The charges for these 34 are like the maximum is 4 years, but in New York, when it reaches 20 years, multiple charges, 20 years is the max.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I didn't even hear anybody mention this, so I didn't realize that.
Why I said Trump 20 years in prison.
I like that.
They said 20 to 24, and we get it. It's 2024. But so that's it. Now here's the interesting part. When it comes time for sentencing.
Okay, let me jump in because I heard something, and I want you to validate it for me because I thought it was really interesting, and it was about sentencing. So apparently, the defendant is given the opportunity. There's a term, and I tried to remember it. I think it starts with an I. Basically, the defendant will have an opportunity to address the judge and the court and show remorse. Is that correct?
Yes.
Do you expect to see that happen in this situation?
I doubt it. I think he's going to take the same position. Well, let me say this. His attorneys will probably do that for him if it's allowed. Oh,
really?
I don't think Trump, part of his best defense in his mind is never acknowledging the court's authority. Kind of just, you know,
but
like
is it like when you testify, would the judge say, Mr. Trump, is there anything that you want to say to where Trump could just kind of override his attorneys and say, yes, I want to address the court?
I've never see. It's easier for me to answer that in Illinois because this is a court, and I've never been in a New York state court to understand how their procedures. But people need to understand is that when you're in state court, each of these 50 states have different procedures, and then when you drill down to the states, each jurisdiction has local rules. So without being familiar with what New York City court local rules are, it'd be difficult to answer that question without, you know, digging and looking it up and going to the courthouse and seeing what Judge Merchan's rules are within his court. Because again, that is something procedurally, because it's a state court procedures vary. If it was federal court, I could pretty much tell you.
So what about in Illinois? Would that, does that apply in Illinois? That happens?
In Illinois, it tends to be more of the judge will ask, but again, most defendants that have not been talking in court will not say anything because their attorney is pretty much doing all the talking. And here's the other thing people need to understand. The attorney is just like your legal Sherpa. He's just speaking for you. The attorney is your spokesman. We are actually carrying out your wishes within the manner the legal system allows you. I can't make any decisions about your case without your input. I will come to a client and say, okay, on one hand, here's what could happen. And on the other hand, here's what can happen. You have this choice, 2 choices, 3 choices, 5, 10, whatever the choices are. At the end of the day, you make the decision. And when you make a decision, I may say, well, look, here's the consequences of that decision. And a person may still say, hey, I wanna do this. I had, just the side note, I'm gonna use something simple that everybody's familiar with. I had a client that was caught speeding an exorbitant amount over the speed limit. And I said, hey, you know, the evidence, all these things here say you were doing this. And he was just up and down. It wasn't me. They would check this with the radar detector. Hey, we have all of that. We've done all that. Here's my best advice. If you fight this and lose, you're going to get points off your license, and the fine is going to go from $300 to $550 with the school supervision and all that. But if you plead and pay the $150 and go to school and complete that and don't get any tickets in the next 6 months, it's gone. No, I want to fight it. I can't win this. Explain to them, I can't beat the evidence. They still want to do it, lose. Then they look at the attorney. Oh, listen, I told you what the outcome was. I told you the evidence didn't stack up, and this is what it is. So people, the worst, we lawyers laugh with each other. The worst client you can have is the client that is suing or fighting off principle. And that doesn't mean lower your values, but in order, I'm going to tell you something that one of my uncles that's a pimp, God rest his soul, told me. In life, in order to play the game effectively, you must know the rules and the rules. Okay? What a lot of people don't understand is attorneys, we're not some super smart person. We just know the game. We know the rules and the players and how to play. A competent attorney knows how to play that game effectively. The worst client you can have is a client like Trump that does not take their lawyer's advice. I'm going to repeatedly say this to your listeners every time. Anytime you get in trouble, shut the fuck up. Talk to an attorney. You don't have to say anything. If the police are not placing you under arrest, you don't have to say anything. You don't have to incriminate yourself. And if you didn't do anything, you don't have to defend yourself. What you have to do is shut the fuck up. Part of Trump's problem, what makes him a bad client, is he will not shut the fuck up. And every time he talks, what he doesn't know is a jury of his peers are all absorbing this stuff. And yes, when you're sitting on trial, you can't, as a juror, you can't bring outside stuff in. You can't do this. You can't do that. But we're human beings and we see behavior. The last thing I'm going to say, what I was shocked by, because New York is such a big place, that they didn't get one juror in there. I was kind of nervous with the juror that says, yeah, I follow him on Truth Social, and he's a very interesting person. That you didn't get one juror in there. Remember, this has to be a unanimous decision. Not one juror. Even a Trump supporter, because there were people who voted for Trump on that jury. Trust me, they didn't say it, but we know that existed through the Voltaire questioning to get on the jury. So nobody wavered. They all, without a doubt, unanimously on 34 counts of business fraud, all said he's guilty. So for me, I was probably at about 70% sure he would be found guilty. But like I said, I thought that one just wasn't going to waver. And so when that didn't happen, he really stands on no legal ground. And it's the last comment about July 11th. Judge Merchan, and I'm sure Alvin Bragg, the wonderful thing about Alvin Bragg, and this is no diss to Fonnie Willis, but I'm hoping she's watching Letitia James and Alvin Bragg and even Mr. Smith. They don't fight their case against Trump in the court of opinion.
In the media.
They fight it in the court. Mm-hmm. They file motions. What people don't know is when you file a motion, unless the judge seals it, we all can find out what that motion is.
Okay.
Alvin Bragg said yesterday, they said, well, what are you going to suggest for his sentencing? And what are you going to do about all this? I like what the brother said. And he said, we'll file a motion to let you know. And so this is big boy litigation. This isn't a political person, a political hack. These people that go on the news, those Republicans who are also lawyers, going there dressed in red. They're not Sambo, excuse me, I shouldn't call them Sam. Yeah. Sambo, Tim Scott.
Well, you got a couple now, because the young one, Brian Donaldson, or Byron,
the dude from Florida.
Down in Florida, he trying to give him a run for his money.
Yeah. The coonery is strong with both. And I'm gonna say this. I'm not gonna mention my former church home. I love them so much, and they send me emails and everything. But real quick story: when I started the Sean Mitchell show shortly after President Obama won the election, and Michael T, rest in peace, strong brother. I used to come over and we would talk to him, and I'd talk in politics, and he knew I had a lot of experience. He knew I did radio. And he said, well, I'm looking for a public affairs show, but you can add your own little thing to it. So I started doing the public affairs show, and at the same time, I was attending a particular church. And the only reason why I'm not going to say the church is I just don't want to bring them into the conversation like that, because I don't think that part is important. But the real part that I found disturbing, I was doing my show and I was calling Tim Scott out for what he was. He was a state legislator or a state senator at the time. And it was about the Confederate flag. He was real weak sauce on taking the Confederate flag down, real weak sauce on doing anything, having the state spend money at South Carolina State or any of the black schools within the state of Louisiana, or doing anything about education.
Or and South Carolina, you mean?
Yeah, South Carolina, excuse me. And giving the typical lift yourself up by your bootstraps with his with his too many gums in his mouth. And I'm from Chicago, a place where black political power is cherished and used, and we use it as a shield and a sword. So when you come into the political arena, you better be able to shoot some arrows and take them too. And so, here I am doing this Sean Mitchell show on the station's airwaves, and I went after Rick Scott every time he said some coonery. And so one day in church at Bible study, a friend of his from my church pulled me to the side and said, I love what you're doing. You're all for the community, but it makes me real uncomfortable when you call another black Christian coon. Well, wait a minute. Jesus didn't lie. And I'm not saying I'm Jesus, but Jesus didn't deal in lies. And what has Tim Scott to be a Christian? If we're going to use Christian, that means ones who follow and love Jesus and would do what Jesus would do. If he's talking about taking food away from children, if he's talking about making single moms homeless, if he's talking about excessively punishing Black and brown kids for petty crimes, if he's talking about setting up a system that allows the elites to have more than the less than, then guess what? And he's speaking against Black people, he's a coon. And here's the other thing that I learned real early in my life. My grandfather taught me, everyone your skin kind, everybody your color, everybody your skin kind ain't on your team.
Oh, I know. All skin folk ain't kinfolk.
Kinfolks. There you go. And so for me, I knew he wasn't my kinfolks. And let me tell you this. Tim Scott will never be vice president because Donald Trump does an excellent job of dealing with useful Negroes. We've watched it. We've watched it for the longest. Even before Donald Trump was talking about running anything, Black rappers used them like useful idiots.
Omarosa, Daryl Scott, one of them, and some of these other Black preachers.
Yeah,
Kanye.
And how he manipulates all these people. As much as I don't like Candace Owens, I'll give her credit. She do call him out. You know what I'm saying? I'm not a fan of hers at all, but what I'm hoping, and I'm just throw this in as a side note, I know this is gonna make Black people mad. What I'm hoping is for Candace Williams is that she Candace Owens, that she can moderate herself and bring some substance to the conversation. Because what I want to hear is from Black conservatives and Black Republicans is, what's your plan? Is your plan, do you have a plan besides the 2025 project plan that is coherent, that's going to actually do something for Black people besides telling Black people that you're on the Democratic plantation.
Right.
That's
the
no plan.
Democratic tit. Get off the tit of the Democrats.
What I find amazing is that you have all these Black folks carrying the water for a racist, xenophobic, bigot, born into a family that has been stealing and robbing the country blind since they ran from their responsibilities in Europe because they didn't want to fight in European wars. So what do? They come to the United States to pilfer and steal. It is in his DNA. It is in his two clueless sons. I'm not going to speak ill about his daughters, but I have an opinion about them. This man is the epitome of white privilege, where white men fail up. Janelle Hill, I got your back, girl.
Yep.
White men fail up.
Father was a racist, got sued for housing discrimination. There were documented pictures of his father at a big Klan rally in Madison Square Garden in New York City, I think in the late 20s. So bigotry,
anti-Semitic, xenophobic, thief, criminal. So
anti-Muslim,
my question becomes that everybody crying about Illinois passed no bail. They letting criminals walk. The biggest criminal just committed major fraud, 34 charges, is walking free. He gets to run for president. He gets to run for president. What I think the real effect of this is, if Trump wins, I think what you'll have from a lot of people is a check out of the system. What do I mean is, this is all bullshit.
Yeah.
This is something that white people and rich people, they get to do whatever they want to do, and there's no penalty. And I think once we head down that line, then it becomes a slow, a quick death spiral to maybe something out as outrageous as civil war, unrest, and total decline. Because right now, everybody's angry. And I mean, we all with anger in different ways. Some people are outrageous about it. Some people are quietly simmering, saying, this system is bad. I do everything I'm supposed to do and not get in trouble. And this person gets to get away with things. And I think that's where we are. So with that being said,
hold that thought, Sean. Hold that thought, because I want to jump in here. This is an important point, because I really want to address the culture and the community, because what you just said, Sean, is true, but it's intentional. The misinformation, the disinformation on social media, you got the sexy reds and the Waka Flockas and all these folks that you know Trump gave a pardon to, and you got the Russian bots and the trolls saying that, well, the Democratic Party is just about slavery and they ain't never done nothing for black folks. And I've been saying this, they are trying to disenfranchise, to my young brothers and sisters, to my millennials and Gen Zers. Listen to what I'm saying. I am putting you up on game, all right? I would never lie to you. You have the power. The people who are in power are afraid of you because they understand that you have the power, and every day that goes by, millennials and Gen Zers have more power, because a lot of these races who are the greatest generation of baby boomers that's holding on to this power like a wino clutching his last bottle of cheap Ripple Boone's Farm wine, because they don't want to let go of power. But they understand that if you ever really collectively wake up and understand, oh shit, we got the power, but Sean, they have the numbers.
Well, the other funny part is that I found myself over the years, because I'm a reader. Let me give you a quick timeline. So back when I was in high school, back in the 80s, I was already reading books about the Illuminati and all of these different things, and Anunnaki and all of that stuff. So I was up on knowledge, but what I learned real quick by the time I was in my late 20s, early 30s, and family young, is that there's the idea that there's some Illuminati doing something secret behind the curtain. No, it's all right there in your face. You could turn on C-SPAN and watch Congress, whether it's the Senate or the House, do things right in your face. If you had the time to read the bills they write, Democratic or Republican, you see the things they sneak into the bills. If you could sit down and watch your state legislator, how they come up with tax breaks and how they give out money and everything, you'd be surprised. If you had time to look at your city council and go through their transcripts and meetings, all these things are done in public. People talk about my taxes keep going up. My taxes keep going up. Okay, let's start. I'm tired of my property taxes go up. Well, you know who to blame for that is? Your county assessor. that person that's not the president of the county or however your county is structured. He's like the third or fourth person on the list of people to vote. But if you own a home or you own a business that owns a physical building, that's who's controlling your taxes. So you yelling and talking about the governor of the state, but the person that's controlling your taxes, that determines how much your property taxes are going to be, how much money your schools are going to get, is the county assessor. And how I live in the Plainfield area of Chicago, in the suburbs, and I notice in my area there's a lot of warehouses and buildings going up, but my taxes keep going up. And I've always been told, oh, we want business because it's going to help keep the property taxes down low because they generate revenue and tax dollars. Well, come to find out that somebody in the county that doesn't live on my end of the county, so they don't care if my property taxes is going up, doesn't even live in my property tax area, is making decisions, giving tax breaks and incentives for companies to build warehouses by reducing their tax for 10 years. And then at the same time, my home property taxes are rising, and I'm on the hook for the infrastructure that needs to be put in, or the expansion of roads. I deal with the externalities of the traffic and the pollution that the trucks and the noise they bring and the danger and the accidents, yet I get no benefit from it. And so people need to really understand how government works. And when you have a person running for president that doesn't understand how the judicial system works, who doesn't understand how government is supposed to work, and their main purpose is twofold: to use government as their piggy bank and to drown government in a bathtub, you got to stop and look at yourself. So for me moving forward, and I've always thought this, but now I'm not going to bite my tongue at all about it. I just choose not to have too many political conversations online because you can't convince stupid people to change their mind. You just let them be stupid. But let me say this. I don't ever want to hear the Republican Party or conservatives talk about the moral fabric of the country, talk about family values, talk about law and order, or any of those, or the rule of law. Because the rule of law is only applied when it punishes Black, brown people, women, and other minorities.
Yes.
It does not apply to white men, Anglo-Saxons who believe they have the economic power in this country.
Kind of like the original Constitution. Sean, you were a lawyer, not to, I apologize for jumping in, but just to amplify that point, the original Constitution said the only people who could vote, I'm almost quoting, wealthy white male landowners. Mm-hmm. Africans were 3/5 human. Women, I will give you $10,000 for every time you see the word woman in that original Constitution. And I won't lose a dime. Women weren't even mentioned in the document.
They were considered property of their husband. They couldn't make contracts. They couldn't own property in a lot of jurisdictions. They couldn't, and everybody talks about what goes on in the Middle Eastern countries, and I won't disagree that women's rights around the world are under attack and being oppressed. But I find it amazing that they talk about the Taliban when we have an American Taliban here in this country Just the fight that has been going on over the last 3 or 4 years with the repeal of Roe v. Wade. I'm always troubled when men want to control what a woman does with her own body. And I'm troubled by that. So we're at a crossroad. What I'm hoping is that, as usual, I believe the polls are wrong. I think more people are quietly engaged. I think because of the rhetoric that Trump and the Trumpanzees and all those alt-right and right-wing groups make, a lot more people's political speech is quiet, but that doesn't mean that they don't go express it when it counts. And when does it count? It counts November 5th.
Or even before November 5th, if you live in a state where you can vote early, don't wait around, vote early.
Yeah, and also you should be looking into that, like right now, confirming your voter registration.
Yes, check your voting status, absolutely.
You have different rules about registering to vote and residency requirements.
And you could be kicked off because a lot of states, Sean, as you know, as a lawyer, a lot of states, they've created laws to where just anybody off the street can just pull something out of their ass and decide to challenge you who they don't even know.
Right.
To have you kicked off the voter rolls and you not even know about it until you try to go vote and they tell you, well, you've been kicked off the rolls. You're like, what do you mean I've been kicked off the rolls?
I think the other dynamic is that, while I know some of this is media puffery, that's the legal term by the way, we call exaggeration puffery, that this is motivation to the Trump base. But what I want everybody to always remember, his base is a solid 33 to about 37% of voters, okay?
And that's really voters on the Republican side.
Yeah, that it's the margins that will decide this. That 5 to 7, say he picks up 7. Like, whereas Biden's base, solid base, is probably right around the same, maybe slightly higher. Let's give Biden 40%. So that's 3 points. That means Biden won last time with, I think it was 50 point, in some, total votes. I think he won by like 51% and Trump had
right around 51%. He had 7 million more votes than he did.
So he has 37% now, and if we go by what he did last time, that means he's going to pick up the other 12%, whether they come from independents and all across. Biden has, let's say, 40. He needs 11%. So they're still neck and neck. So I think the best advice is with the Democratic Party is continually have conversations. I like what Biden and Harris administration is doing this week, and the Democrats seem to start building up towards this. It's going out into the Black and brown community, telling people directly what the Biden administration has done and what they plan to do.
They were in Philly. You're right.
Let the politicos on the TV talk about Trump. Right now, the Biden administration needs to be talking about their accomplishments and what they plan to do for the future. And let me add this caveat. It's okay, President Biden, for you to reassure people by saying, and we as administration are working to make sure Vice President Harris is ready on day one to step in and continue running the country. There's nothing wrong with saying that because his age is a factor for some people. For me, it's not really a factor because I know what the president is.
The other dude is 78, so what the hell?
Yeah, so it really, and then here's the other thing. We laugh about Joe stumbling over something. The other dude does not understand how courts work. He doesn't understand anything about government. He is just rambling. It's like watching a meth head standing out on Dorchester begging people for money, and they just ram. What happened to you? Oh man, I got kicked out of my house because my people put me out of my house. They took my house. Government took my house. You know, all that stupid stuff. Trump thinks he's a king, and the only way he's gonna be crowned king is if Black and brown people and women sit at home and allow this to happen. Because guess what? Most of us that are doing okay now, Trump ain't gonna change our lives, quote unquote. It's just gonna be that existential threat is gonna be real. But those of you that are really struggling, and you struggling now, woo,
and even let me just say two things real quick. The media part that you mentioned, I want to close with that because that's really important. But let me say this for those brothers and sisters, for those Black and brown people, or our Latino brothers and sisters, or maybe even Native Americans, just because you're successful financially with your business or whatever your career is an entertainer, Sexy Red, or Kanye, if you think that your money will be able to insulate you from this ideology and hatred of white nationalism, white Christian nationalism, they call it white supremacy, and there's nothing supreme about hate and ignorance. If you think your money will shield you, I'm going to say a word, and I will challenge you to look it up. And Attorney Mitchell knows, he knows when I say it, he'll know the word, crystal knot. Google crystal knot. It was a night, the German word crystal knot means night of broken glass. Mm-hmm. This was a night in like the early 1930s in Berlin, in Germany, to where you had a lot of, well-to-do Jewish, German Jews had successful businesses. So the brown shirts, which are the equivalent of like the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers and the Three Percenters, went on a rampage and literally broke out the windows and the glasses of all the businesses that the German Jews owned. They literally physically took whatever wealth they had, like jewels and gold, and that was the beginning. Mm-hmm. That was the beginning of the end. So if you don't think that can happen here, then you are not studying history. And last thing, Sean, and I'll let you, I'm gonna give you the last word, because I've been meaning to call out the media. And this is the conversation you and I had, and I've been saying this. There are a lot of media, a significant number of media organizations, and not all of them are necessarily as I call Pravda, like Russian state TV or MAGA state TV. You got to understand, the former president of CBS, Les Moonves, after he was forced to resign over some sexual improprieties, was quoted as saying, we in the media, Trump was bad for the country, but he was great for business. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of media outlets, Sean, that still are going to do everything they can to, as you called it, the horse race. They want the horse race. And, they'll protect, like this verdict, they couldn't ignore that. But there'll be enough to ignore because they want the conflict, they want the horse race, and there's a significant number, because understand these media companies are publicly traded companies. They have shareholders. They don't give a shit. All they're concerned about is money. And whatever they got to do to get ratings, if it means the demise of this democracy as we know it, they don't give a shit. So I'm gonna give you the last word, but I wanted to put that out there because I still see it, Sean. The media still out here doing some real slick shit.
I think that's important to also remember that the media is a money entity. If it's a horse race, that means both sides of the political spectrum have to spend more money on media. So they always want to keep it as a horse race so they can continue to collect the legal bribes that they get from the politicians. So that's important. I had something different to finish with, but I'm gonna hold that thought because I think this audience would want to know this. This is the reason why I was looking down, and no disrespect to you, but it looks like an hour ago.
Oh, I'm glad
First
I was going to
Lady,
mention that. Yes, please. No,
First
thank you.
Lady Michelle Obama, her mother,
Marion Robinson.
Marion
Yes, thank you.
Robinson, passed. And
Yes.
so, as a Chicagoan, and knowing that Michelle comes from a similar background to me, middle class family, that have worked hard to raise you to become educated and a good citizen. Mr. and Mrs. Robinson did an awesome job with their daughter
And son.
and their son. He's an outstanding coach and scholar as well. And to Miss Robinson in particular, she was Michelle's not only mom, but helped with her two younger children. They were the some of the youngest children ever to be in the White House during as long as they were. And Miss Robinson spent a lot, not saying Barack and Michelle didn't, because they did, but having a grandmother and somebody that was raised by a grandmother. My thoughts and prayers go out to the Obamas and the Robinson family. I was going to mention that.
Thank you, Sean. I'm glad you.
Everybody involved. And here in Chicago, as wonderful as summer is, it won't be as sweet without Miss Robinson.
Rest in peace to Mother Robinson. And there's a, as you know, Sean, let me just say this, jump in. There's a South Carolina connection because Mrs. Robinson and her side of the family are from a little small city that's probably 45 minutes from where I'm standing, Georgetown, South Carolina.
Yes.
A lot of the families in Georgetown.
The funny thing is we all have some connection to South Carolina, whether you know it or not, because of slavery.
Over half of the enslaved ancestors of ours came through this port, literally right here in Charleston, South Carolina, right here.
You can go down to the customs house and look at the tax records, and you might just see one of your relatives.
That's true. Yes.
And there's a lot of reminders of South Carolina. I remember when I first got there. Quick story: back in 2000, I remember one of the. It was funny, but it was very intellectually sound. One of my clubs I used to DJ at, one of the guys that was a bouncer here was like, "Oh, you from Chicago?" I was like, "Yeah." He said, "Man, be careful, bro. These white folks treacherous." I said, "Oh, I'll be all right." He said, "Listen here, you don't know that this slavery shit started here." and the funny thing is, I'm gonna throw this just something when you get a chance. Look up the nigger breaker. And what you will find out is that South Carolina, Charleston in particular, was known for breaking bad slaves.
Really?
Yes. And it was an industry where slave plantations from around the country sent wayward Negroes to South Carolina to be broken. I don't remember the particular plantation, but that's a true story. And let me add this last little.
Well, let me just follow up. What did that look like? Breaking.
That meant some of the weird things you see, like the spiked neck thing, being beaten, and all of those things. Because you got to remember, the ideal of slavery is that human chattel is property.
Yes.
And so what people don't understand is that in white folks' mind, if I was feeding and clothing my property, a lot of white folks that had slaves try to take care of their slaves, similar to if you got a fleet of trucks, you're going to take care of those trucks so that they can do their job. See, the plantation owner that was poor with his slaves didn't make much money. So there's no profit in just completely neglecting. But what you want is mental control.
Yes.
You want to break that spirit of being free. That was the purpose of it. And so there's
you pick the one that was most rebellious and make an example out of him or her.
Break them. You break them. And I think that's important for people to understand that we probably all have some. Let me say this. I found out that one of my great ancestors came in on a ship in the port of South Carolina in 1814. So there's a strand of what makes me up where this person came from Benin, Africa, to the United States through the port of Charleston. And so there's a bench at the port of Charleston that you could sit there and get an idea of right where the slave ship docked, where they offloaded the slaves. I tell my friends about the Slave Museum, being in tears, walking in and actually seeing the physical. When you touch these items, you can feel the connection to the ancestors. This is not just something just to be saying or understanding. This is real, and I think people need to acknowledge it. So that's I had something better, but we spent enough time talking about Mr. 34 Counts.
Yeah, right.
Mr. 3-4.
Yeah, Mr. 3-4
with the little hand.
88. But
little hand man.
Thank you for because I was gonna mention that, but today's show was really off the dome. I didn't even have my little note / homemade teleprompter. But
right.
Rest in peace to Mother Robinson, Marion Robinson, and even Barack talked about how important it was to have Mrs. Robinson there, because, and I'll close by this, because Sean was raised by grandparents like I was. And I used to tell people, because I could just read her body language, and she could smell bullshit. And I know she was telling Michelle and Barack, is like, keep your eye on that one. That one ain't for you. She had that spirit, that spirit of wisdom and knowledge.
I loved seeing a Black grandma in the White House, because it reminded me of my grandmother, and the fact that, she worked hard all her life. But one of the things that I'm gonna say that was one of the happiest moments in my life was seeing my grandfather at his 40th anniversary at General Motors, and them getting dressed up to go to the dinner where he got his gold watch, and just seeing how this man worked hard, but he knew he couldn't be what he was without his wife, and they built that together. And so that wasn't not only a celebration for his gold watch, it was a celebration of her being there and supporting him. And since he got a gold watch, he went out and bought her some iridescent pearls that cost way more than his gold watch. He wanted to celebrate the fact that she was there to support him, and that was something she always wanted, was these iridescent pearls. And so
she finally got them.
She got them. She got anything she wanted.
That's
and it's hard when you're a Black male and you grow up under that environment, because you want all the women in your life that are important to you to get everything they want.
Well, listen, everything that I am as a man is because of Conway Jones. You all hear me talking about my grandfather and my grandparents, and they were together virtually. I mean, my grandfather was 72 when I was born, and he was, going on 100, 94, 95 when he passed. But they were together. All of my from the time I came into this world to my at least like early 20s, maybe something like that. Early mid-20s.
It's funny, you've been calling me Sean, and I just realized that down in the corner, I'm using my Zoom account from when I go to court and do Zoom court. That this is a perfect segue to end. Felix L. Mitchell. My middle name is LaShawn. Most of my friends call me Sean, but I'm named after my grandfather, Felix Mitchell.
Really?
He didn't have a son. He had 2 daughters, and my mom was a teenage mom, so my mom and grandfather were very close. And I think also to keep him chill, she named me after him. And for a long time, I loved the name, and it was only a school name, but I didn't go by it. But when I became more mature and everything, I realized that I represent him, and I love my full name. I've always loved it, but I love the fact that every time someone says lawyer Felix Mitchell, I know my grandfather, because when girls would call the house in high school and ask for Felix, he would answer the phone. So I know he in heaven when they say lawyer Felix Mitchell, he'd be like, "That's me."
I know. Well, I'm sure that your grandfather Felix has met Conway Jones and Gene Jones.
Yeah.
I am Geno. My grandmother, my maternal grandmother, her name is L. Jean Amy Jean Jones.
Right.
Her maiden name was Rayford. So L.
Right.
Jean Amy Jean, and I carried the surname of my grandfather. So we both have those major influences.
If
Felix,
your grandfather
Sean
liked brown
Mitchell.
liquor, did your grandfather drink brown liquor?
I got it. He wouldn't
Or
like.
did he drink beer?
No, he didn't drink beer. Maybe before I got here. Now,
Okay.
The brown liquor he probably, because he wouldn't drink it because he was sewing, so he couldn't be drunk.
He liked B.B. King and Bobby Blue Bland.
He liked country music. That's another
Oh,
story.
okay.
And my grandmother hated it. But I do remember some
My
Christmases
grandfather did too, though.
that his friends would bring over. I think for whatever reason, I must have been 9 or 10. I can remember this Christmas. One of his friends for Christmas brought him over this box of Johnny Walker Red. And I think they started drinking early. And I just, my grandfather, because he wasn't a drinker like that. So, he got, drunk and just whatever it was, he must have been getting on my grandmother's nerves. And she was like.
One last shout out that I got to go. I'm not picking. Well, yes, I am. I'm going with the Dallas Mavericks against the Celtics. And the reason why is one of my childhood classmates, and I was terrible at basketball, but we played against each other in grade school. Michael Finley, the president of the Dallas Mavericks. This is his second championship. It'll be like his fourth one when they win this one. He's a good friend, so I am pulling for the Mavericks. And those of us from Chicago area know who Michael Finley is. He was outstanding star basketball player at the high school level. He went on to Wisconsin and did great things. Yep. And then he won championship titles with the San Antonio Spurs and the Dallas Mavericks as a player. And one last thing, he was in high school. I saw this. And he broke, everybody talk about how Alvin Iverson broke Michael Jordan's ankles, where they show that clip. Google the clip of Michael Finley versus Michael Jordan.
I've seen that. Oh, yeah. No. Listen, Michael Finley was a beast from the West Side. Shout out to Michael Finley.
They would.
And I'm happy. Look, Mike, you the shy. I'm happy for you, but I can't mess with you. And here's the weird thing. I'm a Lakers fan. So I'm about to do something that over 5 decades on this planet I have never done, is to root for the Celtics.
Oh, my God.
I can't mess with Dallas. Luke is cool. Kyrie wanted to be a Laker, but Jeannie Buss screwed that up. That's a whole nother conversation. So
Mavericks in 6.
I can't. Oh, no. You said Dallas in 6?
Mavericks in 6.
All right, we off camera. We're gonna have a little conversation here.
Because I'll put up.
We had to come up with something.
I'll put up some Chicago pizza against some crab from South Carolina.
All right, well, you name the place. Forget the pizza. Get some Garrett's popcorn.
Oh, I got you then. All right. All right. I'll tell you what then. We could do that, and I want some pecan pie.
Okay, from
equivalent in price.
We'll find it, because I'll get one of the black-owned businesses, go down, maybe Hannibal's, LJ. I got you.
Right.
So because when we came home for Allie's graduation, we flew into Midway, and apparently they had put some Garrett's inside of Midway finally. So we were walking from the gate, and
you didn't even make it out.
Yep, I was like, Damaris, look, Garrett's. And like moth to a flame, dude, she was.
Hey, let me say this, the last thing. Do you know they sell Garrett's here in the grocery store now?
Oh, really?
Yes.
But it's not like when it's fresh.
I won't buy it in the grocery. Yeah, I'm sorry. I won't buy it.
Sean, when we walked up, it was freshly. It was coming right out of the little machine, and Damaris just scooped it up and put it right. Well, they put it in a bag for us. So
I've been blessed. All 3 places I call my home in the United States are great places for food: Chicago, Louisiana, and South Carolina. I've been blessed with awesome food. It's amazing that I still got my 25-year-old body because I should be big as a house by now.
Well, you doing
Hey,
something.
great.
You're doing something right. Hey, man, listen. It's still a show, but now we just having a conversation that we've been having.
Right.
Hey, man, listen. Thank you. Love and respect. Sean Mitchell, Felix LaShawn, shout out to your grandfather, Mr. Felix. Shout out to Conway Jones. Shout out to Gene Jones. Thank you, man.
Yeah.
We'll see you soon.
Hey, we're getting together for Father's Day show, right?
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned that. We're producing, my co-producer in real time on camera, producing an upcoming show. So yeah, we definitely got to do something special for Father's Day.
Have a good weekend, Geno.
Okay, you too. That's a good idea. I'm gonna call you on that because when you said that, that idea popped in my head. Thank you, brother.
Yep.
Love and respect to you. All right.
That's
my dude right there, Sean Mitchell. Let me just reach over and click something here. Hey, thank you for letting me be a part of your life. As always, God bless each and every one of you and especially you. God, most of all, thank you for letting me do the Geno Jones Show. Thanks, everybody, for sticking around, watching the show Monday through Friday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 in Chicago, 3:30 p.m. out in L.A. Subscribe, share, screen grab, like, and binge watch all my back episodes, The Geno Jones Show, brought to you by CM Transportation. CM Transportation. If your business needs a transportation company that's dependable, reliable, and on time, CM Transportation is the business for you. And you can also give them a call. They're based here in the Charleston, South Carolina metro. Shout out to Carissa Carter, the CEO of CM Transportation, 843 area code 606-2702, 843 area code 606-2702. Shout out to Markel Bailey, the official barber and hairstylist of the Geno Jones Show, CEO of Designer Cuts. Check him out online, IG, Kel Be Cutting Up, KELBECUTTINUP. Allie Jones, Bruce Gage, wardrobe consultants and stylists for the Geno Jones Show. Check out Allie Jones and her Lexi Jones collection, LX.NCL_ Bruce Gage, Miglio Di Mario Uomo, and Flyball the store. So it's MIGLIODIMARIOUOMO, and Flyball the store. Real simple. Flyball, spelled just the way it sounds. Flyball the store. The THE store. STORE. All one word. .com. Flyballthestore.com. Have a great weekend, everybody. I'll see you live Monday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 in Chicago, 3:30 p.m. on the West Coast. Now make it a Geno Jones Show binge watch weekend. Binge watch all my back episodes, but screen grab, rip some video from the shows, and let's make them go viral. And tell everybody to subscribe and share and like. Thanks, everybody. I'll at you. Have a great weekend. See you Monday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern.
Dear Dad, it's been 15 years since you left us. A lot has changed, but I think I'd be making you proud. A degree from SC State and USC Law. You would love my wife, Jill, and I represent our community in the State House. But now I'm doing something bigger, running for Senate to continue fighting for our community, creating opportunities and protecting the rights of those who need a voice. Because Dad, that's the world you taught me to believe in.
Subscribe and tune in to the next episode of The Geno Jones Show, exclusively right here on YouTube.